Banaza is a good-for-nothing pathetic loser who pretends to be a nice guy. His entire life changes when he gets teleported to another world where he gets treated like trash for being weak. But things take a turn for the good when he comes across a demon with massive melons. In the royal capital Paluma, the demi-humans are subject to hard labor by humans, but our MC Banaza is different, as he treats them equally and even pays them for their work. The demi-humans refuse to accept the payment, but being a goody two-shoes, Banaza insists that they take the payment and have lunch. Seeing all this, the capitalist traders from America call him a hypocrite, which makes Banaza wonder why can't they all live in harmony. Banaza is suddenly whisked into another realm, surrounded by priests and a man who welcomes him to the magical kingdom of Clyrode and refers to him as a hero candidate. Banaza is perplexed as the man continues to explain that he has been sent to safeguard their kingdom from the Dark Army. He is then asked to place his hand on an orb that'll determine his magical energy. As soon as his skills get appraised, they realize that Banaza is just a pathetic loser who has no divine revelation. Just then, another guy is summoned from some other world, and that edgy guy turns out to be insanely overpowered. Seeing this, the demi-humans and all the priests start simping over him. After this, the ugly king of this kingdom declares the other guy as the hero, and Banaza is informed that he cannot return to his kingdom because the gate that was used to summon him is closed. They also grant him special permission to stay in the Delaveza forest. On his way to the forest, Banaza questions the demi-human escorting him, asking him some questions regarding this world, but he gets completely ignored, just as my crush ignores me. He then asks the demi-human whether he has a slave contract with the king. In answer, the gentleman laughs and discloses that humans and demi-humans coexist in this realm. He then tells Banaza to bottle it and closes the door. Later, as they approach the jungle, the demi-human tosses him a little sack and urges him to get out if he wants to survive. After this, Banaza brings out a sword from the pouch and comments on how worn out it actually looks. Just then, he comes across slimes. As he gets rid of them, he reaches level 2, and all his stats also level up. Being dumb, Banaza fails to recognize the infinity symbol in front of his stats, and he still believes that he's a pathetic loser. He also activates the voice instruction because he is a pathetic loner. The voice warns him that the sack contains a locator and another enchantment that draws creatures. This convinces him that the Trash King wants him to die. Following that, as he prepares to enter the woodland, the voice informs him that it is extensively contaminated with malachium, a liquid and a gas generated by demons. The speaker then asks whether he wants to purify the entire forest, and Banaza immediately agrees. Meanwhile, the princess of the kingdom confronts her good-for-nothing father for sending Banaza to Delaveza forest. According to her, it was their fault for summoning Banaza into this world, but the king doesn't accept his mistake and calls Banaza trash. Just then, a guy appears in front of him and reports that ultimate holy magic spell has been cast. Hearing this, the king believes that the hero must have cast a spell and gets overjoyed. However, the guy further reveals that the spell was actually cast in the forest, where they sent Banaza. Meanwhile, Banaza uses the special talent Shapeshift to change his appearance so he may enter town. While selecting a gender, he picks female and transforms into a beauty with enormous melons, but soon reverses his decision. This time, he matures into a stud. It's high time he makes his way to Castletown now that he has changed his look. The voice proposes utilizing teleportation to move instantly, which Banaza agrees to. Upon reaching the town, he heads towards the guild, where he's informed about everything related to being an adventurer. Since he cannot register himself as Banaza, he registers himself as Fleo, which is actually his old dog's name. After this, as he is looking for some random jobs, he notices a girl urging people to escort her to the Delaveza forest, but gets refused by everyone. Seeing this, Banaza approaches her and offers to escort her. As they are conversing, he accidentally utters teleportation magic, which shocks the entire guild. Just then, some other adventurers appear at the spot and label him as a child trafficker for lying about using teleportation magic. To clear his name, Banaza urges them to accompany him, to which they agree. With this, he casts the teleportation magic and teleports all of them to the forest. This makes them wonder if he's not your average loser, but a high-level mage. They also apologize for their rude behavior. Meanwhile, the little girl is shocked over the fact that the forest is not actually covered in malachium anymore. This makes the other women realize that this girl is actually a demon and threaten her to reveal her true identity. The girl takes their insult to heart and transforms into a massive wolf demon named Fenris. She was instructed by her brother to scout the enemy and gather the prey. The adventurers, on the other hand, were not expecting such a high-caliber demon to appear there. However, much to the demon's surprise, Banaza was not affected by her malachium at all and decides to get rid of him. Banaza has no other choice but to teleport the others back to town, and after doing this, he unleashes all his magic spells to defeat the demon. After teleporting the useless women to the town, Banaza is up against Fenris the demon. With no other alternative, he chooses to employ every magic spell in his arsenal to defeat the demon. He even dodges its blows with the meteoric leap before counterattacking with the whirlwind. The demon manages to escape the attack, but Banaza captures it using gravitation magic. The creature tries to flee using instant teleportation, but Banaza's AI dispels its magic, rendering it helpless. Banaza, on the other hand, is devising strategies to capture the creature. The AI offers using subjugation magic to make the monster his servant, but Banaza quickly rejects the idea, declaring that he does not wish to make anybody his servant. The AI, however, keeps recommending him to use subjugation, but Banaza persists in his decision. In the meantime, the demon's magic runs out and it surrenders, stating that a warrior without magic has no right to live. It further demands Banaza to kill it, but he refuses since fighting was not his intention to begin with. Just then, he dispels his gravitation magic, releasing the demon. This shocks the demon, who questions the reason behind it. Banaza claims that it makes no difference whether he is a human or a demon, and he refuses to battle someone who has already surrendered. Hearing this, the demon changes into a lady with huge melons. Banaza instantly hands her his jacket as she collapses. Following all this, Banaza establishes a camp where he studies his magic spells and recalls people describing teleportation magic as something mighty. This makes him wonder why he has the ability to cast such a powerful spell. Meanwhile, Fenris also awakens from her sleep and notices that her magic has already been replenished. She then approaches Banaza and questions if he casted healing magic on her, to which he replies positively. Fenris explains that it would have been natural if she had been killed and skinned, but Banaza saved her. She then pledges that she would never hurt humans again and acknowledges Banaza as her master. Banaza, on the other hand, refuses to be called her master, but Fenris persists, stating that she can carry his stuff or even become his slave. Banaza refuses all these options, but after seeing Fenris bawling her eyes out, he allows her to accompany him. Following this, Banaza reveals everything about his past and how he was summoned as a pathetic loser. Even after hearing all this, Fenris vows to stay beside him. Meanwhile, the hero's entire army got wiped out by some magic beasts, and the hero blames it all on the knights. The ugly king, however, doesn't trust and questions his knight about this. The knight tells him that Hero pissed his pants after witnessing some monsters and abandoned his army. On his way to his room, the useless hero cannot figure out the reason his stats aren't increasing. Just as he is stressing about it, another woman with massive melons appears out of nowhere and accompanies the hero to his room. Amidst all this, Banaza takes Fenris to the town and decides to get her registered with the Adventurers Guild. As they are venturing through the town, a trader mistakes them for a couple, and Banaza deems that this is a good strategy to avoid misunderstandings. This makes Fenris insanely happy, since she always wanted a husband like Banaza. Upon reaching the guild, Banaza gets Fenris registered as Riz. Just then, the guild makes an emergency announcement regarding an urgent request to get rid of the Psycho Bears heading towards the town. Fenris suggests that they participate in this request, but Banaza refuses, stating that he is way too weak. With no other option left, Fenris decides to defeat them by herself to prove that Banaza is overpowered as hell. With this, they teleport to the location where the Psycho Bears were last spotted. Fenris is confident that she can defeat them alone, but Banaza still accompanies her, stating that he cannot leave her alone. Hearing this, Fenris comments that they can even defeat the Demon Lord if they're together. Just then, they hear some women screaming and rushes towards them, only to come across those useless adventurers from before. Seeing this, Fenris suggests that they leave them behind, but being a goody two-shoes, Banaza decides to help them. Just as they take down the bears, the girl recognizes Banaza immediately and questions him about Fenris. Banaza introduces her as his companion, which disappoints her. Suddenly, a Psycho Bear appears out of nowhere and ambushes Fenris, who scares the living out of it, and they decide to tame the bear as their pet. They even name the bear as Saibi. Following all this, Banaza takes the useless women to his house, where they introduce themselves as Bella Rosa, Blossom, Bailiri, and Bellano. Even though all of them are knights serving the king, they urge Banaza to take them in as his students. According to them, the hero's army was wiped out by some Psycho Bears, and the hero blamed everything on the knights. Now, the king wants the knights to be capable enough to take down at least one Psycho Bear by themselves. They also admit that they are weaklings and want Banaza to teach them. Banaza wants to help them, but he is just as useless as them, so it would get difficult for him. He then reintroduces Fenris as his wife, and upon hearing this, Fenris agrees to training the useless women. Now that Banaza has agreed to help them, the women have another request. They want him to let them stay in their house, and for some reason, Fenris agrees to this as well. Meanwhile, the Demon King has been reported about the purification magic cast in the forest. This shocks him, as he demands to locate the human who casts such powerful magic alone. That's it, folks. Make sure to like and subscribe, so you don't miss out on future videos.